There's a lot of talk also, of course, about MS Dhoni, the tactician, his overseas record, etc. Now that he's done and dusted, how would you judge MS Dhoni, the captain? Just based on, of course, the overseas numbers will obviously be the number one criteria, but overall as Test captain.
Well, I mean, if you look at it overall, then there's no doubt that he was India's most successful Test captain. I mean, the numbers tell you that. The numbers don't lie. That's what they say, and there's no doubt about it that he didn't have the best of times, especially over the last 4 years in overseas conditions. He struggled as a captain over the last 4 years. India struggled as a team as well over the last 4 years. He started off well. Even his overseas record as captain in his initial years as captain was very good. Maybe it's also a reflection of the fact that the team was in transition. It was a changing times, especially in the bowling department. It's not easy to captain a team when you don't have the resources to be able to take 20 wickets. When some of your senior players who are not necessarily at the peak of their careers are winding down their Test careers. It was never an easy time to captain, especially overseas. It was always going to be a difficult task for him. His numbers weren't great as an overseas captain, but overall, if you were to look at it, he was India's captain when we became number one in the world. He had some success overseas initially in tours like New Zealand, in tours like South Africa, in tours like the West Indies. So he has had success as well. And his record in India and Indian conditions was absolutely phenomenal. Just losing one series as captain, I think you got to take your hats off to him for that.
Knowing him again, was the 100 tests ever something that was at the back of his mind? In India, we go a lot for the numbers, but here he is at 90 test matches. No Indian wicketkeeper batsman's played 100 test matches. Do you think it would have ever occurred to him to maybe rumble on another season and get it done?
No, I don't think so. Knowing MS, I don't think that would have ever crossed his mind. 100 test matches and numbers. In the time that I've known him and I've like you said, spent time with him in the dressing room or even in the slips with him. I've never really known him to talk about numbers and statistics and look at statistics or look at numbers. He's not been someone who's, for me, ever been conscious of that fact. I don't hear him mention it at all. So I don't think that would ever come into the equation. I think he would have felt. I just think he would have felt the time was right, and I think he would have realized that maybe, and rightly, I think that it was time for another sort of generation of Indian cricketers to come in and try and take this team forward. I think he took it to the best that he could, and which in itself was a terrific achievement. But the time was right for another generation to come in and take it over, and it's great that he's recognized that.
Last couple of things. One, you've experienced this yourself, playing just the one format of the game. He's going to play on in one-day cricket and T20 cricket, but it's going to be harder. He's 33 years old now. He's obviously had a body that's been ravaged by all the international cricket and franchise cricket that he's played. Do you sense that after the World Cup, he could even make a decision about his short-form career?
I think it will actually revitalize him. I think it will, because he's not someone who's, I think there's still a lot of one-day cricket. There's still the IPL. So I don't really see this being an issue with someone like him. He's still 33, 34. So I still think for a couple of years, I don't really see this being an issue in one-day and 2020 cricket. I still think he could easily carry on. He's still playing really well. He's fantastic in that format of the game. He's one of the best finishers in the world. So I don't really see it being an issue in the next couple of years. I think he does play a lot of cricket in any case, and to keep himself going. What will be interesting for me to see is if he does get the opportunity, will he turn up for Jharkhand in the Ranji Trophy? That's something he's not had to do. But I don't really see it being a problem in international cricket. For him to come back and play 2020 and one-day cricket, I don't think it should be as much of an issue as someone not, playing one-day cricket and 2020 cricket and coming back and trying to play Test cricket. I think that's the hardest switch to make.
Saha is obviously going to take over immediately, Rahul. But in the long run, do you see someone as a more worthy replacement over a period of time? Or is this going to be a time of experimentation? I mean, this is one spot in the team that's been locked in for the last 7 or 8 years. Now you've got to find a worthy replacement.
Well, I think Saha's earned the right to get a decent run at it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I know the next Test match after this one is 7 months away. So Saha is obviously going to keep in the next Test match. But he's done enough in domestic cricket. He's performed well in domestic cricket, and he's had to wait a long time. He's had to wait a long time to be able to wait a long time to be able to get this spot and this opportunity. So hopefully he can play. He can play well in Sydney and then make the spot his own. But I think there are other keepers in India who see this as an opportunity now to actually look at this one spot like you said was virtually locked in for the last 9 years, to be able to now see that as an opportunity to break into the side. So I think you'd see other keepers suddenly getting interested all over the country. But Saha has the first right of refusal.